Kintra Street started back in 1996. I think the council first approached us 95, 96 to look at the site, and there were still houses built on the site at the time, to see if there was a way the association could take forward or would want to take on those houses.
It's been a very interesting project for us from the point of view it's been a centre of Govan. It's a brownfield site. There's been no development on it whatsoever for quite a number of years. With the housing association, the contractor and the employer's agent, we've tried to create a kind of socially inclusive development here.
We knew that we were going to be building upwards of 50 units. In the end, it's worked out at 66 units for rent, and 23 houses for sale. So it was a fairly big development, and the biggest that we'd undertaken for quite a while. And we were very, very aware of the fact that if the development was to work as part of the local community, then we wanted some public artworks to be part of that. We appointed Cruden as our main partner developer, and Crudens were great. They've been with us through thick and thin for the past 4 or 5 years. Cruden recommended Matt Baker to us simply because of the working relationship that they'd had together in the Gorbals. I do recall going back to Matt's really, really cool workshop down at Kinning Park and seeing some of his amazing work there. We also had a site visit to the Gorbals and had seen some of his work actually in situ, so we were really happy with their suggestion that we work with him. And we managed to develop a 2-stage process for the artworks. The first phase, that one would involve the local community, and it would involve Matt working with roots in the community and with some of the local artists that were resident in the G51 area.
What we did was we sent an artist brief. We broke the funding down, and we sent an artist brief out to the local network that comprises of 20 local artists. And 5 came back with really strong projects that they would like to work in, that we would all be engaging local groups in the area. Some were engaging the schools, some was an elderly group. One was actually with Artform that deals with people with additional support needs. So what we were able to do was make sure that funding went directly to the local groups through the artists, and it meant that the local groups were actually getting months of art, usually about 3 months of arts activities, and that the information that was coming out and the visions and the ideas and the inspiration that came out of those temporary artworks, Matt was then able to build on to create and develop the final piece.
And when I first came to Govan, I was really struck by this young emerging art scene that's here. In particular, I'm thinking about the Love Gallery at Lint House and the Kinning Park complex where we're speaking today. And very early on then, I had the idea of bringing a group of emerging local artists into this process and using the art project here as a launch pad for those artists to get experience of a public art process which they might not have done before, and actually use that then as a launch pad for their own careers and to gain experience. Why is public art necessary? Now, I get asked this question an awful lot, and one of the answers that I give is that we're all familiar now with the idea that our high streets are becoming very much similar. A high street in Birmingham can be the same as a high street in Glasgow, can be the same as a high street in Dundee or Stirling. Always it's the same with the multinational stores coming in, and your high street is Debenhams followed by Dixon's followed by JJ's Shoes. Now, I think that public art is can be one of the things that adds that essential difference, that actually says, no, this is our place, this is what's different about us in ours, and reflect that in our environment.
I think politically the people in Govan should get artworks, and they should have kind of as much artwork as anybody else in the city. It's like,
When we first got involved in this project, we were trying to think how we could use video as a public art piece, and we were trying to think of ways that we could interact with local people and get local people to think about how this site was being used, and we kind of attract their attention to the fact it was being developed. So we'd thought that instead of just doing a video, for years we've been filming in the area anyway, so we had some footage for doing on the site, so we knew we wanted to incorporate video into it. But in terms of how to get more people involved, we thought it would be a good idea, because right next to the site there's a local primary school, so what we thought is if we used animation, then we could try and get input from loads of different local people as to what they thought they would like on the site. So that's what we did. We got in touch with two of the nearest schools to the site. It was Ibrox Primary and St Saviour's Primary, and we went in and did a workshop at each school. It was with a primary 7 class, and in the workshop we'd asked people to think about, we'd showed them pictures of the site and pictures of what the architects had printed out for what was going to be built on the site, and what we'd asked them to do was to think about what they would like, if it was up to them, if they'd unlimited money, power, whatever, what they would like to see on the site.
The main character that we had in the animation walking us through the area was a boy called Joe. He was a member of a youth club in Linthouse, and he was really keen to get involved in like filming and learning how to use the camera, do the sound, stuff like that.
I've come here today to put my new artwork on this lamppost, which is called Bird Feeder, and it's called Bird Feeder because it's basically sort of an artwork which is covered in birdseed, and the idea is there's a word concealed underneath this birdseed, and hopefully over the next 3 months the indigenous birds of this area will come along and eat away and reveal the word. And the word is it's mountain. It stood there for a good couple of weeks, nothing happened. I thought it wasn't going to happen, you know. But then a cold spell came in, snow came. I didn't see any birds here for a while. I mean, until I put that thing up in there. And over a period of time, you've seen a lot of birds in it, a lot of different sort of birds. So I thought that would create a bit of interest as well. And looking out through the window, I seen a few people stopping and looking, you know, wondering why that was there, you know. I didn't know what it was. That's all I wanted it to do, you know.
I'm Tam McGarvey for the Galgael Trust. We get involved in the project through Roots in the Community, who invited us onto the project amongst a group of other artists. Well, I'm a metal worker, so obviously it was going to be in steel, and steel's a traditional material. It's been used here for centuries. The word Govan is a Gaelic word for the place of the blacksmith. So we thought we'd keep that theme in amongst it as well. We kind of looked at the shapes of a traditional Glasgow ducat to get the form of the thing, you know. We thought we'd put a wee bit of pattern and decoration, so we kind of looked at the doves, which is a symbol for peace and things like that, and we kind of reversed them in a triangular kind of format, and we cut them all out, and we used the offcuts to build the doos, and we kept the spaces as part of the design as well. We got some of it laser cut, but we fabricated the whole thing in here. We have a guy who used to live down there who's a professional welder, top class welder. He's volunteering here. So and a bunch of the guys all get welding up some of the pigeons each and got them added onto the sculpture, you know. So they were all the guys were all involved in it, you know.
I've been based in the Kintra Park complex since 1997, and I've been involved in a few public art projects, but they've been quite kind of council-wide as opposed to this, which has seemed far more kind of artist-led. You know. The temporary piece that I did was called Invitation, and it had two parts to it. One part was a mail out to people that said that they wanted to live in the new Kintra Street development. There were 10 people who had said that they wanted to live there at the time. And then the other part was a kind of on-site thing, which was which offered kind of in exchange for a lucky horseshoe. I asked people to answer 3 basic questions: kind of where have you come from, where are you going to, and what brought you to this point, which people could answer quite simply, or they could kind of interpret how they wanted to. But in actual fact, the response was really generous. Kind of got kind of several postcards back, and folk were kind of saying maybe just kind of little things like they were on the way to the pub, or they would kind of have written a kind of small story just about their day, and kind of who they were going to visit and why they were visiting that person. So the piece kind of survived for 5 days, and over those 5 days I got a kind of snippet of what had happened on that site and how the site was inhabited, even though it was kind of at that time it was a kind of wasteland. Because certainly when I was installing the site, there was a lot of folk kind of coming by, and when I was installing the piece, and they were saying, oh, it would just get torched immediately, it just won't kind of survive. But whether it was the lucky horseshoes or not, I don't know, but it did survive for 5 days before it was set alight to. But in a way, my hope was always that somebody would kind of destroy it in some way. It was designed to be destroyed because it was a temporary piece, and the idea of it being destroyed in some way kind of fitted in with this notion of the site being regenerated. So there was so the fact that someone did set fire to it, there was this kind of idea of a phoenix rising from the fire sort of thing, which I quite liked.
My name is Katie Carmichael. This is Rose Tinted Green Bottles. It's about celebrating Kintra Street, an area that it was, and there's lots of people's memories of growing up here. So it's not just a desolate waste ground, this is people's previous homes, and they've each given me a story about what it was like growing up here. We're going way back to the 1920s and 30s. And there's people who've gone on to live in New Zealand and Canada who've got in touch, and there was one man even went on to design Beatles jackets in the 1960s in Carnaby Street in London. So there was a whole thriving community here, so it needs to be celebrated. It's not just a waste ground. My project was about looking at this derelict space which most people would walk past, but I kind of felt like that little space had a history, and it turned out that it was actually a breeding ground of memories. I suppose because the area itself is notorious for being part of the wine alley, so putting that together with wanting to literally bottle people's memories, it just seemed appropriate to use hundreds of wine bottles, each with a label with a special story on it. The research was pretty good fun. It was about tracking down people who had lived there, just asking people in the area who'd lived in the street, finding out from the libraries and things, all sorts of local resources. But having the internet as well was brilliant. There's a brilliant website called, I think, sunnygovan.com. So I put out a few calls in there to ask who lived there, and got responses from as far as New Zealand and Canada from people who lived on that street.
what the Phase 2 artwork became was there were 89 flats as part of the Kintra Street development. Each one of those flats has now assigned to it a different symbol or a pictogram. Those symbols were taken from the different stories and the little facets of information that had come out of Phase 1. So it's a set of 89 symbols that are specific to the Kintra Street development. So you have 89 different flats, 89 different symbols, one symbol for each flat. Now those symbols are found in different ways. Firstly, there is an aluminium cube for each symbol, and then those aluminium cubes are dotted around the development in different ways. Some are grouped together in families on poles, others are found singly, built into a fence or projecting from the ground. And each of those locations where those cubes are found were significant spots in terms of the research that we'd done, in terms of like overlaying part of the historical Kintra Street onto what is there now. But also, when you entered your flat, you got one of these, as part of your welcome pack. Now inside, there's a this isn't the real thing, but you'll get a proper stencil, which that's your graffiti tag, if you like, for your flat, which you can use wherever you like. And there is what you'll find in a discrete location in the flat. There's a graffiti stencil sprayed as a hallmark for the flat. Also, you'll find the DVD, which is the DVD that you're watching just now, and a little description about the artwork. And on the back, you can trace your own particular symbol, find it on the key on the back, and then by following the dotted lines, find where your cube is located in the housing development. What was amazing is that what came out of the first 5 projects was just this enormous wealth of material about the place. I mean, Kintra Street has got so many different histories. We've got the very kind of ancient history of Govan back to its Iron Age roots, if you like, the Dark Ages, which is famous for its sculpture, and all the way through to what you might see as the heyday of the shipyards and Victorian Govan, through to the post-industrial decline, and then the visions for these new beginnings. All of those were reflected in the way that the temporary pieces were handled by the artists, and that was what we really wanted to reflect. So we pulled that apart and looked at the overview of what had been done and picked out 89 symbols or pictograms, as you might call them, which represented those different ideas. And what we very much wanted to do was put that back onto the site to represent where that site had come from.
My name is Liz Black and I represent the Management Committee of the Govan Housing Association. We're here today to open a new artwork project in Kintra Street, but basically the project is for the people of Kintra Street, and what I would like to do is wish them every success and prosperity in their new homes. Well, I became involved because this area's got a rich history, and the committee, wanted somebody that was local to the area, that understood artworks and would have an interest in it, so I volunteered myself. From the start of the project, obviously, until the finish of the project, and I've been involved with Matt, discussing, the artwork, Kintra Street, how it's laid out, and to be quite honest, I'm quite excited about it. Well, I hope, from what I can see so far, the building itself looks fantastic. All the local people are talking about it. There's a buzz in the area again, it's getting regenerated, and that's what Govan Housing Association is all about. I thought that the initial stages was fantastic when we had all the art, when we had all the young artists together, because I'm a great believer in putting things back into the community, and I just thought it was an ideal situation for Govan.
It's usually the artworks, it's just a kind of sculpture on a plinth, or a kind of single focus to it, and it's just quite a nice idea of having it kind of more integrated to the development itself.
So this is me stenciling each individual house. You take the rubber stencil and I'm spraying temporary glue on it, then press it against the wall, and the actual spraying is done with an airbrush in 2 stages. So I let the first coat dry, and then I come and do the second coat. And once that's dried a bit, you can peel off the stencil to reveal your beautiful image. It's been really great being involved in the project, because I don't know in what other circumstances I would have had the opportunity to be involved in this sort of thing. So there's been a kind of positive discrimination because the project was only open to kind of Govan-based artists. I've benefited in that sense. It's been really great. But I think what's been great as well, in terms of going from the temporary piece to the permanent piece, is in the temporary piece I got to kind of understand how other folk, the other artists who were working on it, were kind of seeing the site, and in coming to work on the permanent piece, I've come to understand more about kind of where they were kind of coming from it.
When we were thinking about what it's like to move into a new place, and particularly into a new area in some cases, all of that process of change, there's a lot of superstition or good luck, or the things that you take with you for good luck, or the way that you place things around your new apartment compared with how you had them in your old place. There's a whole lot of sort of superstitions that we kind of carry with us that we don't perhaps aren't that aware of, and in some way we felt that the symbols were part of, we're playing with that idea of the superstitions about changing home.
Our development at Kintra Street and Dunsmuir Street, Vicarfield Street and Summertown Road is probably the first new build down in that area of East Govan. The Glasgow Housing Association has plans for Britton and Brighton Street, and I know there is talk of the tower blocks coming down as well in the future, although I don't know within what timescales that'll happen. It's inevitable that there will be new build housing next door to our site. Not only there, but as the BBC occupy their building stretching up from Pacific Quay, there will be future development on the water side there, and it's just luck that ours is the first to kickstart that regeneration of that area. We just hope that we're creating a legacy that is going to live on and will be carried throughout all the other new build sites that are going to be popping up around ours.